Okay.
Yeah. Are you, you're just.
Well, wait, we're
joining
just gonna do
too?
roll call in minutes.
Okay. Okay. All right. I think you can just join by Zoom.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Conservation Commission's
Okay.
April meeting. First, we just want to do roll call. We want to go from right to left. Susan,
Here.
Robin Bates Mason here.
And
Here. Okay. Sorry. Oh, March. Sorry, March. Ooh, thank you. We're already working on an April newsletter. Thank you. This is a March. It feels like April outside. It is March. Exactly. Okay, so next just need to approve the minutes of the February special meeting.
I move that we.
For a second, John. All in favor? Approved. Thank you so much. Okay, next on the agenda, I'm going to hand it over to Linda for the Harbor Watch and New Canaan High School science team.
As you all know, the commission is actually chartered to seek and advise in the development, management, protection, and conservation of our natural resources, including water resources, and to coordinate our activities with existing town committees. So you're part of this preservation and protection of our water resources. A very important part of our mission. So we thank you for doing that and for coming here, and we look forward to your presentation. Can you, each of you, introduce yourself? Nick, starting with Nikki here, since she's first to present.
Sounds good. I can start. My name is Nikki Spiller. I am the director of Harbor Watch, and I've been with Harbor Watch for 14 years now. Spiller, like I spilled a drink.
But you oversaw the high school students in there.
Yes,
Yeah,
so
Harbor Watch.
Harbor Watch kind of served as a coordinator for the high school students to collect nutrient data within the Bristow Bird Sanctuary property, while they did most of the work. And honestly, my research assistants and other staff members were the ones that went out with them most of all. But I only heard great things about the time that they had out in the field, and they collected some really interesting and great data.
Can you, sir? Can you press? You have to press the button.
And please speak up because.
My name is Claire. One of the members team. I'm Niathi Eingar. I'm Annabelle Bristol. I'm the treasurer of science. I'm Melissa. I'm also co-captain, part of the water.
I'm Pranav. I'm one of the members of science team.
I'm Alex Yuan, and I'm a member of science.
Thank you all. Okay. So Nikki, can you begin?
Sure. So I apologize for not having a digital version of my presentation, but I think everyone there's a copy that everyone can get of our data. And so Harbor Watch conducts water quality monitoring throughout Fairfield County. We do a bunch of different types of projects, but what we kind of, our bread and butter, what we focus on mostly is doing indicator bacteria analysis in waterways throughout Fairfield County. So what we do is we conduct in-stream monitoring for dissolved oxygen, conductivity, water temperature, and then either E. coli or enterococci, depending on whether or not it's freshwater or saltwater systems. We collect samples approximately every 2 weeks from May through September. And then we use that data to inform where pollution trackdown or mitigation efforts needed to be conducted throughout the county to locate where sewage pollution sources are and get them remediated. So in Fairfield County in 2023, we monitored 22 waterways in 12 towns. There were 137 unique sampling locations. And of those, 81% of those sites exceeded the Connecticut Deep Geometric Mean Criterion, which is a logarithmic average, which reduces the impact of outliers and kind of is the analysis that the state uses to get a blanket understanding of how a waterway responds over the course of a monitoring. So in The next slide is a map of Fairfield County. Each of the dots represents one of our different sampling locations. Green dots will represent anything that's meeting the state geometric mean criteria, and anything that was yellow, orange, or red increasingly exceeds that criteria. So in Fairfield County, our best river was the Silvermine River. It had the fewest exceedances of the geometric mean criteria. And there was a six-way tie with for 6 different rivers that had 100% of sites exceeding that geometric mean criteria. So there's a circle around all of the New Canaan sites. And if this was in color, you'd be able to see that the majority of everything in New Canaan on the Silvermine is green. And then we have a lot of yellows and 1 orange, the sampling location. So we're looking pretty good relative to the rest of the county. There's one spot, and we'll go into detail on that, but it was on the Groton River. So the next slide is a by-town summary. So you can just see how New Canaan stacks up to the rest of the county. 44% of the 16 sites within the New Canaan boundaries or right on the border of New Canaan exceeded the geometric mean criteria. And that's only slightly above Ridgefield and Wilton, which only had 20%. So congratulations to one of the towns with the best water quality. So I think that's pretty good. And hopefully this presentation can get sent around, or you can look at our final report on our website to see the colors. But there is really a drastic comparison to what New Canaan looks like compared to something like Bridgeport, which has 93% of the sites exceeding the geometric. So color wise, it's very different. And kind of the bacteria concentrations that we're working with are drastically different.
Will you be explaining to us, you think that it,
So we're working on a long-term data project that is going to be able to try and answer some of those questions. But what we're finding preliminarily is that in general, we see higher bacteria concentrations with higher population densities, greater impervious surface, and it even related to demographics as well. And so New Canaan in a position farther up in the watershed, there's more open space, less bacteria concentrations, population density is less than what you do Bridgeport or Stanford. So those are kind of the things that we would expect related to poor water quality. Really, we do see that same trend.
issue of correlating open space to, I'm assuming, water filtration, really important to us. We are losing direct impact.
So we're trying to find some data sources that will help us analyze our long-term data sets that we have, because in all of Fairfield County, we have data sets that are 20 to 30 long. And so we're trying to look at that and compare them to different percentages of impervious surface cover and open space, and to try and see, is development over a certain percentage worse, or is just all development bad, to see if we can show those concentrations here locally. Yes, hopefully we shall see.
But I think that's a very important statistic for us. Being an LP or whatever, it directly correlates to the ecosystem which we depend.
Yes.
Having
Yeah, so hopefully we'll be able to show that. And then we're going to be putting together town summaries. Initially, this project was only supposed to be for the coastal towns. That's just what we had grant funding for, but it was cutting the watersheds in weird ways that the analysis was becoming very difficult. And so our funders have allowed us to do all of the towns in New Canaan summary report. So we'll share all of the history we have and some of the analyses so that you have that information that as you see fit in town, depending on, oh, we've done an X, Y, and Z projects, but the data is showing that it is improving water quality, or it's not. So maybe we shouldn't do it. Hopefully be able to be a useful tool as best management practice.
we know already, because of prior experience, areas like playing field just inevitably have an negative impact. And that struggle. But there are other issues of control as a community. those sorts of uses are under consideration.
Hopefully all this information will be available, hopefully by midsummer,
Be
or the
good.
fall. So that's what we're aiming for to get the
Good.
analysis done. Timelines always change, but that's what we're aiming for. It's a combination of, yes, we have a clean river, but also we need to keep doing the things that we're doing to keep it clean. Otherwise,
Well,
we're gonna get bad water quality.
We also have 4 more rivers. We need a little work or how. Thank you.
So if we dive into the slide labeled 5 Mile River, we can start talking about the individual waterways. So this map just shows the location of all 10 sites that we have. 2 of them are located on the border of Norwalk and Darien, 2 completely in Norwalk, and then 6 in. Over the length of the river, the concentrations did vary, with the highest concentrations observed at 5 Mile 7. So that was the orange dot. So we're in the 501 to 1,000 geometric criteria category there. So this, with 5 Mile 7 being the highest concentration on the river, is similar to previous years. And Harbor Watch would like to investigate this area again by conducting some backdown, doing some surveys at various outfalls. We had previously done some and identified some work related to the DPW. I never got any final information about what exactly was done. So that's why I want to revisit and kind of talk with Tiger again and see where we left off and what we can do. Yeah, so that would be the goal, is to add some additional in-stream sites if we could, and do some outfall testing to just see if anything has changed, because these numbers are definitely higher than what we had observed. It's on East Avenue. 5 Mile 7 is our East Avenue site. So 10 starts up at the headwater, or highest up, and then flows down. Yeah. So for the dissolved oxygen graph, this is a box plot that shows the dissolved oxygen concentration distribution. And so what we're seeing is that our individual sites, especially in New Canaan, are all above the state minimum 5 milligrams per liter, which is great. So the dissolved oxygen in the river is not a concern at this time. We move on to the Noroton River. The bacteria results are consistent with years prior. We've got higher concentrations in the lower portion of the watershed, which forms the border between Stanton and Darien. And as we move into New Canaan, we have Noroton 5 is green, and Noroton 7 and Noroton 8 are in that yellow category, so just slightly above the criteria. But what we did observe was that elevated concentrations in New Canaan were frequently aligned with rainfall events greater than 1 inch. So appearing that rainfall is having a big impact within the watershed on what's happening.
The runoff.
That's
is
definitely runoff, but it's
toxic.
well, we're just focusing.
Toxic.
We're
It's-
just
it's-
focusing on E. coli bacteria, so I don't want to make any assumptions about any other parameters. Not necessarily. It's the same bacteria comes from our guts that comes from the gut of a squirrel. And so with the way that we're testing, we can't determine whether or not it's, well, it just is there is E. coli here. And so it could be a combination of leaking sewer systems, explicitly connected sewer laterals, although given the concentrations, they're not enough for me to believe source like that. It could be a more diffuse source from maybe failing septic systems, or just with that much rain and the septic system's not functioning as efficiently as they could. Maybe there's an issue there. Or it could be geese or raccoons. It could be a myriad of things at this point. And while it is concerning that they are not meeting the state criteria, if you were to compare these geometric means to what we're seeing in other towns, it's not indicative to me that there is a direct connection of a human sewage source. I mean, yes, and they tend to be easier things to identify. Just the concentrations are so high, it's easier to pin down what it is. These concentrations are just slightly exceeding the state criteria, and so it could just be a combination of weather factors that year that's causing the. It becomes a little tricky when we're only slightly elevated. And then the dissolved oxygen concentrations, the majority were meeting the minimum. Noroton 8 had 4 of the 10 sampling events falling below 5 milligrams per liter, kind of correlated with elevated water temperatures. And because they're inversely correlated, that wasn't surprising. But overall, it's not really a concern. And we haven't noticed that the state has been dipped below. What if we became very concerned, I would consider putting out like continuous monitors, but at this time, except I think that is in the Silvermine River. It's not much to say. The bacteria concentrations in New Canaan all met the state geometric. That's looking great. Dissolved oxygen wise, we're seeing some individual readings dropping below that minimum in Silvermine 10 and Silvermine 9 sites. But again, not really a concern at this time, aligning with periods of, less rain, higher water temperatures. I had originally put these slides together back in December when we had finished wrapping up, and this just got postponed a little bit, but our next steps were to share the data in our year-end report. So that is available on our website if you have not seen it yet. It gives a little bit more detailed summary of these 3 rivers as well as all the other waterways that we throughout Fairfield County. The data was also shared in a raw Excel file with Connecticut Deep so they can use it in their integrated water quality report assessments. So that should be coming out in 2024. That's every 2 years they reassess the waterways. And so this information will hopefully be beneficial to their analyses. And then, as I had mentioned, we want to work with DPW to discuss some track down priorities and hopefully there. And then possibly continue monitoring in 2024. It'd be our goal to do that. Robin just mentioned that it looks like we won't be able to get any funding this year. We are still holding out hope that the New Canaan Community Foundation will be able to give us some funds. We have a grant to pull, but that
Chris
is.
does.
But we do like partnering with New Canaan. All the agencies here in New Canaan have been great. And so we hope to be able to do some of that work and continue.
So the river testing is part of cleaning up the harbor. It's almost essential to be sure that the source water.
Our grant is focused on doing the bacteria monitoring within the New Canaan sites in our New Canaan water. That's the grant that we have.
Yeah, no, I know, but overall, Harbor Watch is.
Oh, Harbor Watch is just the name. We started by
Oh, I see.
monitoring Norwalk Harbor, but now we're in
You're not doing
22
any
waterways
mon-
throughout Fairfield County. We
Oh,
actually
okay.
don't do
Okay.
that much work. We're in Norwalk Harbor a lot, but
Yeah.
not
okay.
in the harbors as in many other harbors.
I see. Okay.
It just was how the name started. And then at one point we were Harbor Watch, River Watch, and that became a mouthful. So we went back to Harbor Watch. But we do salt marsh restoration projects.
Yeah.
So we've done it throughout the state. So it's all kind of combined. We're just here looking after the water.
Yeah,
Is what
all
we're
right.
doing.
Thank you.
Conductivity is a measure of the ability for electricity, like conductive. Yeah. And so it can be in and of itself, like one number is not going to be like, oh my God, that's really bad. There's no criteria for it. But over time, you may be able to see like a steady increase could be related to too much salting of the roads or in the wintertime, or potentially a sewage source. Sometimes we see a correlation. It's just another parameter that's easy. Our meter that does the DO and the temperature also has that. And so we just record that as well. We don't really use it too much in kind of working on tracking down pollution sources. Not the one that we use most. No. Yeah. Yeah. No, so we're focused really on identifying any sewage sources that would be contributing to poor water quality. The nutrient work that the high school students did kind of aligns a little bit more with, is there too many, are we putting down too much fertilizers?
Right.
Because the same thing our lawns happens in our waterways. And there's so many parameters that we could be monitoring. Most of the time, cost is really the limiting factor for it, as well as time and trying to figure out exactly how much data collection is necessary. I know PFAS is the big topic right now, but a single sample of PFAS can be hundreds of dollars to collect, and it's still relatively unclear whether or not one sample is enough to be like, oh, we have a problem, or do you have to only sample in the heat of the summer when the water level is going to be the lower, so you're likely going to have the concentration of it, or do you sample after a rain event? Like there's so many different things that still trying to figure out. And so at this point, it's not, because HarborWatch has limited resources, it's not where we're focusing our data. Be happy to help if there were like funds to do that in the town. Yeah, we do have to be a pass-through lab, but we could be the organization that does the sample collection and the right lab with the appropriate.
Thank you.
So sorry, I just have a couple little more slides.
okay.
So as I was talking about our long-term analysis, you can see there's a slide that says historic look, sneak peek. And so we've trying to answer that age-old question, like, is water quality improving? And we looked at the data in the 5 Mile River, and what we've actually seen is our bacteria data is significantly increasing over time, which seems to be driven by increases at 5 Mile 9 and 5 Mile 10. Sorry. Yeah, 5 Mile 9 and 5 Mile 10. And while those concentrations in the river are not super concerning in the grand scheme of poor water quality and what we're seeing in Fairfield County, it is interesting to us. And so as we continue to collect data, we're going to keep an eye on those sites. In the Silvermine River, we're actually seeing a significant decrease. So that showing that, like, yes, the work that we're doing in these watersheds is having improvement, and everyone, it seems to be caring. No one's doing anything that's negatively impacting the watershed as a whole. And then in the Noroton River, over time, we've seen no significant change, but at the individual site level, our Noroton 8 site, which is in 5 Mile River, our Noroton 8 site, which is in New Canaan, is seeing a significant increase. So again, as we continue, West Road and Greenlee Road. So we're looking at that, and then we're also taking all of the historic data and using it to infer if current bacteria concentrations that we're observing are considered high for individual sites. And so this will allow us to create a response plan, because typically the way we've been looking at the data is, every year we're looking at it as a whole, like, how did we do this monitoring season? And maybe we evaluate it in June or July and say, like, okay, over the last 2 months, we've seen these concentrations, and we think that this is kind of high, so we should respond and try to do a track down project. But by being able to look at our historic data for years prior, the minute we get a result, we can say, oh, is this number high for 5 Mile 7? And if it is, we can respond faster, knowing that maybe we don't have to wait 3 weeks or 4 weeks to say, oh, we're seeing these consistently high. We can just say, based on historic data, this is a really high number about this right now. So we're excited about the prospect of being able to respond faster based on these analyses with the historic law. Most likely. It could be, yeah, it could be either. It's kind of hard to tell. There's a lot of factors that we'll have to look into. When we got that really high concentration, did we also get 4 in 2 hours? Like, that's likely going to be the cost. But if we had a dry period for 2 weeks and we got this really high concentration, there's probably another kind of source that's something's failing somewhere, or there would just happen to be a giant congregation. So it could be either way, but we'll be able to more quickly respond to what were all the factors, what do we think is the best. Yeah. Yeah. So what we find is that we try to evenly space our sites along the length of a river. And when we see these, essentially, if we're at a downstream site with a high concentration, the next upstream site is a low concentration. We just then can focus our efforts in between those, and we can add in additional in-stream sites at accessible areas if possible, or we work with the municipalities to figure out where stormwater drainage points are, where the outfalls are, because often in our Fairfield County town, separate storm and sanitary sewers, but they run parallel with each other, and they're old. And so if the joints are cracking in the same spot, we're going to see cross contamination. We've seen it where a road got recently repaved and there's just a rock that under the weight of the equipment collapsed the pipes in the same spot and there was cross contamination. We've seen illicit direct connections to the storm, like contractors had maps upside down and just picked the wrong one. It's really run the gamut of what we've found. But most of the time, what we're finding is that the do respond pretty quickly. Our method of repetitive testing has worked pretty well. We've done some analyses to determine, do we need to sample weekly? Should we only be sampling monthly? It really came down to 2 weeks is a really great for our resources and the ability to detect pretty good for what. Yeah, so if you have any questions, you can email me or come to our website or follow us on social media. Oh, it's harborwatch.org.
Yeah, and they'll have a complete report on their.
In time, send me the names of these students.
Yes, we can. Good.
Okay, Melissa? Yeah, so you have to join. Yeah. Okay, good. Turn on and
Sorry.
speak up.
Sorry. Throughout June 2020. Wednesday. The whole purpose of the parameter is like later. Was all taken for Norton River watershed. All of our
Yes, we really want in Bristow, part of our plan, storing the Bristow source waters sanctuary as clean as
Yeah.
possible.
to go throughout this.
Good.
And that was
Good, good.
Casey Burns. Yeah. That was our student leader, and then data collection. Bell. Sister, who's not here. Alex. Fifth. So yeah, the data. So we tested around 6 sites. The first 2 are near the entrance of Mead Park. It's like the 2 bridges, so the streams that go off of the hill. Then we do a few around the trails. We mainly focus on the stream behind the baseball field because the fertilizer and pesticides on the baseball field are likely to run off water in that area. Then we do 2 other sites around the trails and 1 just outside the trails on the side of the road. Then 1 over on Indian Waters Drive in that big pond.
Indian waters.
really get the most.
The
And
temperature's lower or
really the highest.
Focus.
Yeah, our
area.
focus.
As she said earlier, we do 2 testings every other month for 3 months. And we need to do 1 wet day and 1 dry day, which just means that it rained in 1 day. Because the level of water basically really affects the data. On our dry.
So, the dissolved oxygen, in the water is very important because aquatic life needs it to breathe. And, algae and other aquatic plants release the dissolved oxygen in the water of photosynthesis. Also, warm water in the summer holds more dissolved oxygen than cold water in the fall, which is, Bristow 3 had the lower temperatures, right? Which is probably a reason why it had less dissolved oxygen. Sites 3 and 4 were consistently below the CT 5 milligrams per liter of dissolved oxygen. When dissolved oxygen gets below 5 milligrams, it's a lot harder. One of the other reasons why sites 3 and 4 might be consistently below is it's a shady area. There's generally less sunlight to drive synthesis. And it's built because it's below the baseball field, so there isn't as much cooler. So naturally, the dissolved oxygen.
I just like to put function with the Y sign. Possible, but but other than that, Bristow 7 and although we noticed like third amount of algae on which throughout the year made it harder.
So why do you think that
It's
third amount?
Yes. So basically nitrogen levels fertilizers all over the algae, it's basically believe like inside of me, whereas Bristow 7 notice there's a piece there.
Interesting.
Also, well, also another reason why that might have happened, you pointed at the geese. Like the probably organic matter possible that the bacteria consuming that organic consume that yeah,
Yeah.
it's a possibility. So generally 2023 dissolved oxygen levels have dropped since and other, like, as I kind of said, like when organs die, or generally organic matter can like attract bacteria which consume that organic matter and thereby consume dissolved oxygen, lowering the level of water. And as Melissa said, excessive algae can also, while it can be good for dissolved oxygen, the way of this, excessive algae can block sunlight from water in the organism. So that can also be detrimental to dissolved oxygen and generally life, aquatic life.
Though we're still in the health, this trend can learn to us. Most of
What
this
kind
has-
of
yeah.
concern?
Can you repeat, sorry.
Well, when you said if it drops below, you'll have be more of a concern.
The So there's, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's confirmed. We just believe that the main, although we noticed obviously field could be a we'll get more into that conclusion slide. Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so for the nitrogen, this slide is for like the total amount of nitrogen, including ammonia nitrogen, organic nitrogen, nitrates and nitrites. And like what this serves to do in the water is kind of support the growth of aquatic plants and kind of fosters a habitat for animals as well. But if levels are too high, it can result in excessive algae because sunlight can't really penetrate deeper into the waters. So on average, the total nitrogen was a little less than 4 from 2021 to 2023, but the appropriate levels should be around 0.12 to 2.2. So in 2023, the levels have gone a bit above that.
Then stop. Found in pest.
Yeah, so for nitrates specifically, like she said, often caused by fertilizers because it's an ion fertilizers. But it can also come from bad drainage, waste that contaminates the water. So the normal level is about 0.005 to 0.5. But in the summers, it can peak to go about a little bit above 3. But generally it's been stable, slightly below 3 over the last few years. And Site 6, we found that it generally had the highest rate levels. Yeah, like I said before, this can lead to the overgrowth of algae. So that could be one of the high levels.
There's been a slight increase. Continuation.
But yeah, it's like it's important system because meaning nutrient for plants. Right now, we've seen that the so that's like
Yeah, even though this is it's important for ecosystem, it still should be as is like detrimental to them. And you say like you can see like most of these you can't certain amount, like for example, Bristow 6, we could barely even find any of it. But there's one data point for Bristow 7, it's around 0.7. Generally, that site also had high levels of ammonia nitrate. Yeah, I think that was. You were taking the sampling even.
Graphs show the total phosphorus that we found in the water, and normal levels are usually below like 0.03 milligrams per liter. So that these levels are being exceeded. And again, these are fertilizers are a big source of these, and as well as like manure and organic waste runoff. And the algae growth that phosphorus causes will increase water toxicity and have consequences for the aquatic life. And
this is just these are just our conclusions about, so, sites 1, 2, and 7, those were, generally good for dissolved oxygen, given they had the most. And, we noticed that the heavier nitrogen and phosphorus, they, been as we, so during June, for some, also site 3, that's our generally most important or concerning site, phosphorus and low dissolved oxygen, which can, aquatic life there is doing probably. Yeah, but this can, sorry, these hypoxic
We didn't see
conditions.
any dead fisheries.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
no dead
No,
fish, but
yeah,
not really
there-
much of
no,
anything. The
nothing.
water at that site
Frogs,
also like
anything.
doesn't move.
Yeah, we
It's
could,
very, very
Very,
shallow movement.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah.
so generally that site, it's even hard to sample. We have to go get the samples when we're trying to scraping the bottom, there's debris
Huh.
everywhere, so when
Yeah.
the water's. This could, as we mentioned so many times, fertilizer right behind that baseball field and 2 baseball fields. Believe that they can, the fertilizers from lead to all of these. All the-
You're also. I wonder if it'd be interesting.
But the baseball field
That also makes more sense for
pick up more.
Bristow 7 too, because that's like private driveway with green
Big,
lawns.
big,
So
green, big properties.
yes,
around
exactly.
there.
So fertilizer runoff from could very likely.
Do you do sampling? This is interesting because the into Mead Pond comes from a huge outfall that goes under the road system. The hardware stores. If you were able to sample after outflow, see what the, as it comes in,
Yeah.
it would be easier to understand the impact of it. Because
Yeah.
I bet it's great.
Yeah, I think just not. We've been but I think a great roads that as you or like could be a cause of it too. We could be able to.
Adding more sites.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where that's undergrounded, but I think it's well on past Elms and up. Public Works would know this, not paid attention. Starts when it comes out, your rainfall. So it's a huge catchment area.
One site, it's like right near the road. I believe it's Bristow 6 and it right next. I don't remember. Sorry, but it's this, it's the main road.
Yeah, so
And
that
there's
was
an
the point of establishing that site a couple of years. It is outfall.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so
I think we should establish more. Yeah, that was, we don't really, we're trying to compare like the runoff in real grass fields versus turf fields. I'm not sure like if the fertilizers used on real grass more than, but if grass fields are more, they give less of this. I know that.
Sure, yeah,
Yeah.
possibly, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there's, I think, as with everything, there are pros and cons to all of it.
Yeah.
I know in other municipalities, there's been big discussions over PFAS and turf fields and where do you kind of, there's so many things we could look at in regards to water quality. You kind of have to pick the one that is highest priority to the community and figure out like, do we want to solve a nitrogen problem? Do we want to solve a PFAS problem? Do we want to solve a bacteria problem and kind of tackle that first? It would be great if we could tackle them all at the time, but kind of the causes, solutions are different and financially you can only put your resources so far.
Right, right.
And so it's really more of a community-based discussion of like, what are we most concerned about solving?
Like the data.
No, they
I-
they don't write like this kind of is their formal report. We do have a poster that they presented at our water quality symposium back in December.
Mhm.
So I have a digital copy of that we could
But
share.
there's no,
But
Well, I
there's,
have a copy now, Susan sent it to us.
oh, of this,
Of this
Yeah, of their-
presentation,
yeah,
yeah.
they sent it this morning.
good.
Yeah, and also like.
Oh, yeah, we
the
did,
poster that-
past ones are already on there. The past reports are already on our. So it will be on the town website.
And I could
for
also
sure.
share like water quality symposium that she was. We also have a poster for that. Share that with you if you want as well.
I think this information that you just presented as your student report
Professor sent me an email response. Please.
Yeah.
He was very happy with. Are you finished?
Yeah.
and I like
Any other
your,
questions for?
I like your art embellishment.
Yeah. No, we were thinking like bird sanctuary.
There you go.
We're gonna continue. For your comparison.
yeah, so this has been funded through the Conservation
did.
Commission for the last 3 years. Don't know, based on some news I just heard, if we'll be able to do it in
Yeah.
2024.
Hopefully,
Discussion
well,
for you
that's
guys
to
on
be
your budget.
determined.
And is because it was my understanding DPW was responsible for water test. Bigger question is DPW also willing to student participate?
I'm happy to be a part of those conversations,
We have
if you
not.
need.
Tiger couldn't make it.
So
Prior
I'm coming.
Thank you.
Boy, water test. We would go after school and if you. Yeah, it was really nice to walk through the whole,
So you guys
So,
had fun?
yeah, we
It
enjoyed
was
it.
fun learning.
and with like the Harbor Watch representative. we
Yes,
always
I'm
talk with
sure you
them.
learned a lot
Yeah,
from
we
them
did.
too. That's great. Well, thank you all so much.
Thank
We
you.
really appreciate your
A
work
quick
and your
question.
time and your presentation. This is the first time that the whole team has presented. In the past, it's only been team leader, So I think it's great that everyone who participated in the testing was able to contribute to. Thank you very much.
Good job, guys.
Yeah, that's
guys.
We have like being able to partner with the science team and the Conservation Commission to get this done, because I think the data has been used. I know it was kind of used as like, we were collecting this data, so let's write a grant to do some proven projects in town. I don't know how that proposal ended up going, but
Yeah.
to be able to help provide the service and partner data, it's been great. And this group especially was phenomenal this year.
Yeah.
The data.
You can tell that.
Great. Thank you, guys.
Thank
Do you
you.
ever work with Trout Unlimited?
They are one of our funders.
Okay.
We don't do anything like super directly with them, but we do have a good relationship. Yeah, no, we definitely have more the Mianis chapter is who we've aligned with.
Yeah.
Which I guess maybe this area.
It is this area.
So they are one of our funding partners, and we've presented some of our data to them as well, but they like supporting our efforts. A lot of ways that they're working.
Well, it's very important to them. There would be no fish to catch.
Exactly. Yeah, we're trying to do our part. Everyone's playing a small role in
The
in these
Mianis River
waterways.
is a big asset.
It is. Yeah, my dad's often one of them.
I just had like one question about who should I,
I'm sorry, what?
anyone I
Oh, so it was, I think it'd be interesting, and I can reach out to him, about like when they put things, readings, when the Parks Department, because I have a feeling it's more than just the,
Yeah.
like, if there's a lot of
Runoff,
houses in the
runoff,
area that run off it. Probably do a lot of, pesticides and herbicides. But, no, they don't, I mean, that's a question for Kathleen Holland. They're more deep wetlands, how it, where the water runoff is, but not so much quality as far as, that's definitely for Kathleen. Question for her.
Yes.
That's
potentially.
Stanford.
Yeah. and Beth just joined.
We can ask them.
Thank you very much. You have my
Very
email.
much.
You definitely have my email. So if you have any
Yeah.
questions for us, field them for.
You have, Nick,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
okay, so I can, okay.
Do you need anything else from me?
No, I'm good.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
There is.
There we go. So then PowerPoint that.
Yeah. Have the power. That has their name.
Yeah, I saw that on it. But
You guys. Okay, next on the agenda is the Bristow Bird and Wildwood Preserve. The Centennial Celebration Planning, which Land Trust is working on. Will be involved in that as well. I don't know if add anything at the most current Land Trust meeting on Monday. It sounds like they're pretty much well in hand forward that. Tiger, I don't know if everyone received the memo that will be presented to the Board of Selectmen regarding the final installment, the fourth installment of Bristow. Did everyone receive?
No, I
Okay,
receiving.
okay. I think Tiger sent it to Conservation Commission to maybe to Lola to send out, but I'll just share it around. So the total that he's proposing to the Board of Selectmen for the final is $234,948.55 with contingency of about 6,000. So it makes it about 240,900. Believe Tiger said that some of the items came in a little higher, so they did have to back a little bit on some items, but he has a breakdown here. It's trail work is about 77,000, boulder work about 10,000, slab stones close to 4,000, statue setting, that's the new slab 50, fencing work 225. And this is all, by the way, the contractor's Peter Lanny. Lanny, am I saying that correctly? Laney, Linni. And then Lanny, and then the plant work is 26,000. And I'd like to reach out to Tiger and what, because it's to install new plant materials. And I think we, as well as Land Trust, since they're the stewards, should know what plant materials are going in, just are native and invasive going in there. So that's it. So over here. So that's that on the update on Bristow. I walked around recently. I don't know if anyone else, there was a little bit of graffiti, some area. Todd, from the Parks Department knows about it now and they're gonna try to clean that off. But yeah, if we could just walk around it every once in a while.
Who's during the bird these days?
So it's being, well, so right now it's Sarah Herring of Friends of Bristow. And then I believe it's being migrated over to Land Trust, the bird feeding, so. And I believe is it Boy Scouts or someone's helping with the cleanings? I can find out. I remember it was mentioned in the meeting.
I think the Slobs have done a lot of.
Yeah. So, so that's it on Bristow. Any questions? I mean, John has.
Can you?
So he's now presenting it to it'll be going in front of the Board of Selectmen to get the, approval. I mean, this has been previously budgeted, but of course, they need to vote to release the funds. Yeah, so, and this is the final stage.
The approval of.
Yes, to give the cut to the bid to Peter Lanny. And then, of course, in the budget, Bristow will have a line item in the budget, in the Parks budget, $10,000 a year. Which would be a question for Tiger. What do you get for 10,000? Yeah, I mean, obviously, if there's a tree down, I think, or something, the Parks Department will come in, but it's what is $10,000 a year? Is that helping a trail that's been washed out? Yeah, so
It's
yeah,
you can.
yeah.
I spend $10,000.
Well, and that's also another question for Tiger on this. The contract was the plant material. Is there a guarantee, on the plants, will they replace a certain amount? Trust can go in and do some watering their truck.
The contractor guarantees usually do a warranty on trees. Sometimes bushes, never anything
And then
small.
perennial. So, but that's a question for Tiger for next. Oh, Linda. No, I only have one copy. I thought it went out to,
Okay. Can you send that round?
oh, you mean the copies? I'll reach out to Lola.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here, you can keep your copy.
Yeah, I'll ask Lola. And that out to her.
I'm not interested in the numbers so much as.
I will have Lola send that to everyone. Okay, next is the New Canaan Pollinator Pathway Group met 2 Fridays, about a week and a half ago. And of the project, they're working on a program for this year. Something to do with possibly a landscape architect coming in had for natives around your property to start help with it. Anne was there as well. Please chime in if I'm missing out, but kind of plan to help with big rainfalls we've had and how rain gardens or other certain trees can help, so people aren't just, the flooding issues in the basements. So, no update on that yet. Waiting to hear back from a few speakers. And the next was that each pollinator pathway organization, us included, the project this year just to be plant a large native oak in Bristow for the centennial celebration. Copia Home and Garden, which is kind of part of the New Canaan Pollinator Pathway, they help us. They're willing to give it at cost. percent of the cost. So the vote was going to be up to $200 per organization. I reached out to Tiger to make sure that we could vote on this from our budget. He said that was fine. Well, so the oak that was lost is outside of the park. This would be behind it. Because then we can put it in, but anything on a state road right now, I don't know if you're familiar, but New Canaan Beautification League is working with Department of Public Works to put in, there was ARPA money given for trees for parks and for roadways, and they wanted to do, South Avenue used to be these big trees and age and storms, and they're having problems because it's a state road. State now is saying 4-inch, which is bamboo. Yeah, so I think there's a new person there. So of course, Route 106 Old Sanford Road is the same. It's a state road, so we can't plant anything there without their okay. So this will be behind the fence. It will be in the bird sanctuary. I believe we can talk to Tiger next time that the stump of the old oak is staying, but this would be an oak kind of behind it. It would be about a 5-inch caliber already. So it's a large enough tree, and Land Trust, they have a truck they come in and they water with, so they can water it. So we're not planting. All of a sudden we have a dry spell and it's gone. So kind of behind the area behind the current oak tree,
In the woods.
no, it's actually kind of, unfortunately, it's got Pachysandra in there, the area will have to be cleared out a little bit from the Pachysandra, but it's closer to the fence. There is a Norway maple. We'll see if the town could take that down. And if anyone's listening, Norway maples are invasive, that's why. But it is a cleared area, so there's kind of nothing there right now. So it might be blocked from the street view a little bit by the old oak, but it's 5-inch. It is big enough that we asked the town if they could deliver it, and they can't. Too big for what they're doing it. So in the cost included is a delivery fee of, I think but it's about $1,400. So we're voting on up to $200 to give to the pollinator pathway to purchase this. It could be 170. I think we're good. Most organizations have come back with a yes vote. Some just haven't had their board meeting. So,
Do you want a motion?
I was gonna say,
Do you want a motion?
I'd like a motion.
I move that the Conservation Commission contribute $200 to the planting.
Okay.
It is swamp oak.
Oh, 200 years.
Oh, good. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's still available if you were to go to the New Canaan Beautification League YouTube's channel, the program they did on Zoom with Talamia. Yeah. Yeah. He's on, so that's the problem we're having right now with Beautification League, is that it's like they don't want to get the trees any bigger than 5-inch. And it's like that that's not a tree. That's not a native tree. Well, that's the thing is, so it's the state, I believe even our state reps are involved in talking to the state right now. Unfortunately, Tiger's not
That's
here.
also going to be a parking.
No, on South Avenue.
South.
On South Avenue, so we have these ARPA funds and we need to spend them by a certain time, and the state is now making it difficult to plant trees. So when Tiger's back here, he can give more of an update on giving him a head. Okay, so great. Now Conservation Commission communications. Has everyone seen the town newsletter that it didn't have much on it. And then there was a request from Tucker Murphy for commissions to submit, which I think is the Conservation Commission definitely be. So it's, so if you're on the, a lot of people have the email, it could have hit your. Mine went to my regular email, I guess if you're for emergency. Yeah. Well, it's the town website. Yeah, newcanaan.info. So unfortunately, Tucker Murphy's away this week, but and so is first selectman, but that's a question for them because they're now, if you use the first newsletter, there wasn't that much content, but because they're reaching out, they want commission to give them information. Obviously, they would have to approve it. It's, I mean, she wrote in it, but it's the and that's something that we can talk to Tucker when she gets back is on their town Instagram, if they could put information how you sign up for what their data is, how many people open it, what's their open rate. Yeah, and it's, I mean, they just sent it out. They're still new. They're still trying to get, I'm sure they'll also put that as well. But then I would think we should ask them if be posting that on their social media. Yeah. It'd be, I kind of think it'd be great if everyone, I mean, so it's not going to be, from my understanding, and we can ask more like a blog format. It'll be more like information that we want to get out. So I mean, we think of, and there can be overlap with Department of Public, because we have issues where, you know, the hazardous waste schedule just for all of Fairfield County with the towns that would deal with hazard waste, and you know, we need to make sure that residents know about this because they're, you know, we don't want them pouring their oil or their leftover Roundup down the drain that goes out to the Norton River, all the rivers. And I think when people don't know how to get rid of these items, and I don't think people know that they can go, you know, if you're a New Canaan resident, you can go to the Darien one. First one coming up is in April in Westport. Yeah, I don't think enough people know you can do that. We could get. Yeah. Yeah, you just have to show your. I think New Canaan. But anything that's coming up as well, and this may be once again overlapping with Department of Public Works, but you know, the Shred Day coming up April, and you know, shred paper doesn't get recycled except when it goes to it's all together. I mean, I'm going to be obviously more focused on things that I've already been focused on. So I'm just saying what I'm thinking, you know, recycling is a massive issue, and we're still trying to get into the MRF or the Conservation Commission to see it just that one burnt down. Or we have a contract with not, well, Wynn is now what City Carding was, but our contract for recycling goes up to Oak Ridge up in Danbury, but their Shelton MRF burnt down. So they're using somewhere else. So they're not taking people on tours right now, but we should be getting in there so we can see, you know, if I've been on MRF tours, material recovery facility tours where the recycling goes. You know, there's so much that comes in, so contaminated, such a problem, getting that information. The other problem is that recycling is you know, so confusing. So don't blame people. So information like that, maybe about food scrap recycling, possibly about the river testing that just happened, so anything. So I'll look up what was sent, and I can send it to Lola, and then she can send it out to everyone about what can be submitted. And then I would say we'll bring them back to the meetings, and then after the meetings, then we'll submit to Tucker Murphy, I think, the point person. So I'm wondering if they're using Constant Contact. But I think they haven't said been limited how much space we have. But they are very much looking. Yeah. Might be monthly. I'll look it up, but it's
Who's doing it?
so it's the town, it's coming from the town.
I know, but who?
Oh, I think Tucker Murphy is putting it together.
He has nothing.
Sitting around, doing nothing.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I would like to get ahead, especially. Once again, this could be stepping over on Department of Public Works. I get people are like, oh, I didn't know where to put it. Even things like, this is more the police department. Medications you're no longer using at the police station because you shouldn't be flushing it down the toilet. So I'm gonna get that information. I do apologize, I didn't get it with me. And I'll send it to Lola to get it out to everyone. When the newsletter is, who to submit it to. But I would think we should bring it back here. With the exception though, I would think we should. And that could be overstepping with DPW, but if they're not going to. Yeah, but it just make sure it's in the newsletter. They usually will put it on the social media, and the social media, if we want to put anything on the social media, it just has to be approved. They meet every Monday, that group. I think I think Pam's involved. I think Tiger's involved. Will be allowed on the. So if we want something to put in, we can, but it needs to be in that by that Monday for the following week. Yeah. And I think it's 10 a.m. are their meetings, or it's before noon.
I think, Annie, to your point, I think we should take the initiative to develop the issues and in preparation for, and then we can pare it down or change it. We would have a body of work from which to draw, so it's not new every time. I think you should do it. No, you've talked a lot about it and you have a lot of experience, and I'm sure that you'd be very persuasive in your language, and we could circulate it around. I mean, obviously, but I think if one person sort of takes the little here, we wouldn't be all over.
Well, that's actually the last thing on the commissioner assignment. So
I just gave.
yeah. All right. So okay, so we'll jump to the next. It's just Sustainable Connecticut update. We just the group is being put together, just got the okay on the group listing from the first selectman. So just reaching out to where they want to be on it. And so we should hopefully see a first meeting month or so. Number 8 on the agenda, recycling food scrap swap shop update. We're working with, Plant New Canaan is working with iCycle, the redeemable can bottles. we've been given a location at the transfer station. I don't know if it's enough space, but it would be something where, like they do in Weston, deposits have gone back up 5 cents. It is better if you were to return to the grocery stores rather than single stream recycling, actually get items. recycled. So this would be where people could drop off if they don't want to recycle their bottles and cans. And then it is the Plant New Canaan Youth Board's working. They would pick out what they want to do is a nonprofit for every like 3 all the proceeds. iCycle would pick up, they are actually themselves the redemption center, so it's no longer Weston and other places we're dealing with a guy with a truck and then he would take half. Because these trucks, it's a lot that you're taking up. So they're working on that. And then last thing was with the composting is that recently Tiger Man, a member from Plant New Canaan, went to go visit the composting machine, the Rich machine at Stanford Recycling Center, E Avenue, to look at those as a pop at our trans. They are not inexpensive, and this is dependent on whether funds could be raised or a grant could be raised. And when Tiger's here next month, talk more to. So what they're doing is what they've told us, actually, they don't take anything because they are the redemption center. So they're getting that fee above and beyond. So the fee went, I think, from 1.5 cents to 3 cents now, that the redemption they get directly. But what they're doing though is you do have to pay, you don't have to sort, but you do have to buy the. So there is a fee built in. You have to buy their bags because you can put in a certain amount, but then when we went and looked at this operation in Weston, Connecticut, they had kids their sports teams there every Saturday sorting glass, all these plastic, all the aluminum. This is everything can go in, and they know how much based on the size, how many bottles are in there. But so, yeah, you're not paying, but then you're paying for the bag. So you are, it's a built-in fee. So you are having something taken out, but then they're coming and picking it, making it go. You don't have to do sorting, which is
Yeah.
No, which and we'll go back on them because I had a meeting with them. I was like, how much are these bags? How much is this? But the other was a guy who took, when I talked to Wes, I'm like, well, how much does he take? And they're like, we don't know. Like he gives us a check and he's like, maybe he's taking half. Maybe, I think they had an arrangement, but they just were never, they're like, well, we can't quantify numbers because we don't know because we put them in bags and we haven't counted ourselves. But they were doing, when we went there, I think it's grown and they were hoping to grow. They were making $12,000 a year for their Sports Boosters Club. And they were looking forward to the jump to $24,000. So there's that. Any questions? Swap Shop's now open Wednesday through Saturday. Right now there's winter hours on Fridays till 12 noon. I know their volunteers are trying to ask people if they have their transportation passes. Most have. There are some groups from, but there are few and they're usually picking up for various charities. We are getting complaints about the food scrap bins. There aren't enough. So when Tiger's here,
Can't they sell the compost?
so it depends. In Stanford's situation, when they had the machine, they still had to cure, it's 24 hours and they still had to cure it for 2 weeks. In Stanford, residents could just come and take it. We work for our food scrap recycling with so you're paying a tipping fee for him to come and take it, but then you're not getting the comp.
Well, they're selling it.
Well, no, he's taking it to an industrial composter.
Mhm.
And I think he even has to pay a fee and then they're recycling.
Problem with the town composting, and it certainly is a problem with the leaves, is there's so much garbage in the leaves that come off the street. I mean, everything. Cans, things, cigarette butts. I mean, I stopped taking it because I spent more time cleaning it
Cleaning
out.
out.
And I think with food scraps, if we're composting them ourselves, I think getting rid of the food scraps, but I would just say to group or a business or whatever, just come pick it up, take it away. Down to think that they are then going to give it all to would you have the same problem? It's stuff that didn't fully compost and all of a sudden you're looking in your garden fields and
Oh, but we looked at the end product from Stanford
Mhm.
and there were like, the issue is that with the food scrap program they had, like ours before, you could take bones. That when you have the composter, when I say bones, I mean big bones. I mean, so we were there, the guy they showed us, his name's Dan, massive like ham hock bone. And he's like, you can't take, but the old program of composting, so it has changed. There's definitely a level of education, as there is currently the food scraps. People see a recycling symbol, so they'll put their food scraps in it. That's plastic. Recycling symbol, it's just means what type of. But people are like, oh, I thought that was okay. So there's a level of education, but we were really impressed with what we saw because we had seen this 2 years ago and it did not seem like a program.
Becoming quite a business, so
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if there isn't a lot of market.
Yeah,
Mm.
no, it'd be interesting, but I mean, it was just a visit. There's nothing in the plans, so we'll see how that goes. Okay, open space mapping, Tiger. Water company contacts, Pura, which is the is it the Public Utility Regulatory Agency? Chris Shipper had mentioned there was an issue with Indian water.
Aquarium.
Yeah, but
Oh,
they
that would-
hadn't,
Yeah.
they hadn't reached out to Land Trust because they didn't have their information. So the state law is that water companies have to give land trusts or conservation organizations at least 90-day head start before they reach out to other bidders for water company. However,
Selling land.
well, no, but just in case, just the
Oh.
regulations.
Oh.
So in case something comes up.
I see.
However, the way they do it though is it's not under the water company, it's not up to them to find the land trust conservation. You have to make sure your name's. And it's a state government list, our land trust. So what Chris Shipper said at the last meeting, he's like, well, the town planner at the time wasn't interested. And then they said they couldn't find information. So the land trust never had that 90-day period.
Right.
So there is a list, you can go on, look on it. And I do apologize because I only did it this morning.
I'll take it.
Okay, you make that happen. Yeah. So I'll send you the Pura, I'll send you the information. It's really just clicking on it. Okay.
I think under the legislation, they are obligated to notify towns. And again, I think where it fell through here. Interested.
Yeah.
And I'm not even sure the land trust was really a completely functioning. Anyway, it was quite a while ago. But to your point, you're absolutely right. The initiative has to come locally to go reaching out because the water company. Also,
Well, don't you have,
Correctly.
yeah.
Yeah.
and I think that their interest is capitalization for their investors and so they want the most money they can get for the property. Town interest is quite not aligned with that. I think if you can intervene early, that is going to fail. It would be to our advantage.
That's something also, and it's for when Tiger comes, is what Chris said at the last meeting is that it was one person in town that they weren't interested. But maybe it should come to the conservation. You know,
That's an internal thing.
but that, you know, exactly, but that's something we need to talk to Tiger is that it comes in, there's got to be protocol that it's just not one
Right.
person on their own saying town doesn't want it and then nobody else in town knows about it. So,
But that comes back.
Well, we had
no, but when the water company themselves, so it was the water
Right.
company reached out, but they spoke to one person in town. According, I don't know if that's accurate. This was according to our
I
last
think it's
meeting.
probably to notify, and they did it.
Yeah,
And I think, but the other point here is that that's all good. Isn't that nice? We all get information, but we have absolute. So now what?
yeah,
That's
with
the
the
same
land
thing, that's the
acquisition.
same
and
thing.
whatnot.
about it.
But at least that there's that, not, just make sure land trust gets on there. Yeah, but I think it's something when Tiger's back here. Can it be more than just? Can the Conservation Commission be involved when that happens, that at least we're given a heads up well, so we can work with it, yeah. Okay, and then since I've, or the Conservation Commissioner assignments. Vacations, that would be work. John, what would? And this Eversource, the Eversource, yeah.
With
Multiple
different,
Yeah,
trust company.
Use. So that's the point.
wasn't someone saying in a previous meeting, didn't we have someone say that they didn't sign off on the
That was
trimming?
me.
That was you, and
Yeah.
then Tiger asked you like, and they had forged your signature?
That-
Right,
And everyone else on.
Scribble.
You know, because they asked. You
Well, they
asked,
came to my.
they-
See,
okay. Well, anyway,
Maybe I shouldn't have.
they asked me, I did not, but they were allowed to up to certain,
I just
the
can't
property line that is owned by
Yeah,
the
I-
town.
Ask me specifically what.
so I don't know the specific. You know,
Right.
to the neighbor. But
It
it's
was
expensive, and the
so
neighbors
long
need to
ago.
know that it's.
No, you don't need
Yeah,
to.
that would be good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and this is.
Okay.
You can also communicate directly with their subcontractors,
Yes,
because I had arborists. And I have evergreens, and you don't shear evergreen.
right.
I mean, you do if you want a hedge, but. And so when he was trimming, he agreed that he would notify me and I could be there when he was cutting. I understand the clearing of the wires. That's equally important to me, actually. But you don't have to take everything. And you can stop at a certain point because the tree is no longer
I
interfering.
mean, they have. That's an issue. In my mind, the bigger. 80-year-old. The extent that.
I also think that at least if you look around downtown in particular, trees that were planted. And they've been absolutely mutilated over the years because big,
Yeah,
didn't belong there. And so I think that,
people are being smarter.
yes, I would agree, but that's a historic problem.
And that's something actually to ask John how, I mean, not in the streets, but at least for the parks is how is the determination? Because, there was something at Waveney that, line, which is typically not done, a Japanese maple tree. So it's who's making the decisions. I mean, obviously eyes, using the eye of the beholder. So there's right or wrong, but it could be like, but we also want to make sure there's no invasive, and we'd rather native trees than, Japanese trees, but. So Linda, stick with the water testing. Yeah,
It's not gonna happen.
well, I think it,
It'll be an easy job, Linda.
Probably needs to make it.
yeah,
Find a way.
yeah,
You know? Yeah.
Yeah, no, they did a great job.
The woman from Harbor.
yeah.
Maybe we can find funds.
Their portion.
For sure.
You should
This is a
giving us
great
that.
investment.
How much was it for the? It was 20,
About 75.
and that
but that-
included the 2,500 for the,
Yes, yeah. All of it going to supervising.
right,
But every day.
yeah, I
data
think,
going to cost more.
like the pesticide. Which is probably what a
Oh, you
lot of
mean
people
more.
wanted, yeah.
I think maybe this would be an excellent subject
to go
matter
back
for
to-
our.
Well,
To
you
take
know,
the
yeah.
data and translate it into a narrative as to what does this matter.
We also have.
Yeah, and then Susan, is there something you would like to take on?
I'm very much. Impacts. River embankments. Vulnerable.
And interesting enough, Trout Unlimited would like to come in front of us. Canaan would like to do the Christmas tree where they're
Oh, yeah.
building up the banks to help with the silt and bring up like that.
There's also. There.
Then I'll stick with recycling, food crafts. I think if it's, we just
It is
have
fun.
information about
Yeah.
what it is,
Yeah,
I
and
think
I
that's,
certainly have-
yeah.
And I can give it to you.
We do not. I can ask about that, but that's, I think as a, that's a question though, that maybe to Tucker or to Pam,
Yeah,
like
because
whether,
it's part of the.
yeah, but even to respond to a Facebook thing, probably better as a private citizen, not as a commissioner. I think you can chime in as self. I think if you
Yeah,
say,
not as-
I am Commissioner so-and-so, this is, I think
If you're
that
representing-
possibly could, yeah. I think you as an individual.
And it's, yeah,
Mhm.
Visioning, sorry. Saying it's not important.
Yeah, but that's definitely, I mean, my,
Yeah, but that-
yeah,
but- yeah.
yeah.
I mean, you have before, you put it in your new.
Yeah,
People
so
write
it
in.
is talked about, we're doing more of the science on it. There's supposedly a group that's coming together, so we're kind of like, that's
A separate. group
a
from
separate
the-
group, and I think
separate from
they're,
Planet New-
yeah, separate from Plan New Canaan, so, yeah.
Join them.
So I don't
Me-
even know the name of the group yet or anything. I mean, I think people that have come. I don't think, but as a,
Mission line.
You could always,
yeah, that's
yeah,
always,
that's
I mean, that's what I would do because then
yeah,
Always writing. That gets read.
yeah. And then actually, I realized with my agenda, it should, first things you do is. But, they could be over Zoom, but you're supposed to, every meeting, you're supposed to take public comments. So if people want to come to the commission, but they don't want to be here for 2 hours or 90 minutes, the
Zoom
public
in for a
comments
period.
at the beginning, and
Yeah.
then they can leave. So I think advocating that is more than acceptable. That people can come to our meetings and give public comment. Be on their way and not have to listen about things they're not. I think it's important to get the public comment because when people say these things online on these groups, Facebook groups, and then it goes into, you know. Yeah, I think as long as, I mean, I hope as long as you're just posting, not as commissioner and Sylvia, if you're just like, hey, there's a conservation commission meeting. Yeah.
Here's another agenda. New newsletter. We
Yeah.
would like to open. Since we
Yeah.
don't get a lot of. It could possibly. Zoom.
Yeah, yeah, so everyone can attend by Zoom, it's state law, so it's, yeah. All right, I make a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Great, thank you.